Hello, everyone. Welcome to our channel. Today, we're talking about something that sits on nearly every table: bread, rice, and potatoes. They've been called danger foods by many, yet for most of us, they're staple foods we can't simply give up. But here's the good news. You don't have to eliminate them. If you know the right strategies, you can enjoy carbs safely without sending your blood sugar on a roller coaster. Let's explore how. Carbohydrates are everywhere in our diet. They are the body's main source of energy and also one of the key players behind blood sugar fluctuations. Many people assume that cutting out carbs completely is the only way to control blood sugar. That's not realistic, and it's not necessary. The real issue lies not in carbohydrates themselves, but in the type of carbohydrates we eat. Not all carbs are created equal. Refined grains, such as white bread or instant oats, are digested extremely fast. In contrast, whole grains and minimally processed grains digest much more slowly and don't cause the same sharp blood sugar spikes. To keep blood sugar balanced, fiber is essential, especially resistant starch and carbs that come from whole foods. If you're on a low-carb diet, fiber is the one carbohydrate you don't want to skip. Its benefits are enormous and hard to ignore. Think of carbohydrates like fuel for fire. Refined flour is like throwing sawdust into the flames. It burns hot and fast. But steel-cut oats or whole grains are like solid logs. They burn slowly and evenly. When your body digests white bread, glucose floods into the bloodstream rapidly, causing a sharp spike, then a sudden crash. But when you eat whole grain bread or oats, your blood sugar curve becomes much smoother and more stable. For your body, that means smaller, steadier waves of glucose, instead of steep peaks and plunges. Next, let's talk about a game-changing concept: resistant starch. Most starches, such as bread, pasta, and foods made from flour, break down into glucose and raise blood sugar quickly. Repeated spikes like this worsen insulin resistance, strain the pancreas, and over time make it harder for your body to control blood sugar. Resistant starch, however, behaves very differently. Our digestive enzymes can't easily break it down. Instead of being rapidly converted into glucose, resistant starch travels to the large intestine, where it's fermented by gut bacteria. This fermentation process produces short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which improve insulin sensitivity, reduce inflammation, and even nourish the cells that line your colon. For example, a review of 17 clinical trials found that people who ate rice high in amylose, a type of resistant starch, had lower post-meal glucose levels and a lower glycemic index compared with those eating regular rice. Amylose has a linear structure that resists enzymatic breakdown, slowing digestion. That's why it's classified as type 2 resistant starch, and it helps regulate blood sugar more effectively. Here's a clever trick to get more resistant starch. Cool, then reheat your carbs. When you cook starchy foods like rice, pasta, or potatoes, let them cool completely, and then reheat them before eating. This process increases resistant starch content through what's called retrogradation, where gelatinized starch molecules realign into crystalline structures that resist digestion in the small intestine. You still enjoy the same foods, but with added metabolic benefits. Research shows that cooling cooked rice or potatoes to around 4 degrees Celsius 39 degrees Fahrenheit for 24 hours significantly increases resistant starch levels compared to freshly cooked versions. Clinically, eating cooled and reheated rice or potatoes can actually reduce post-meal glucose and insulin spikes. Many foods are naturally rich in resistant starch: beans, lentils, peas, oats, and barley, for example. Adding these to your diet provides longer-lasting energy and smoother blood sugar control. The next principle: food pairing. We rarely eat carbohydrates in isolation, and what you eat with your carbs can make all the difference. Studies show that adding protein to a carb-containing meal can reduce the area under the post-meal glucose curve by up to 50%. Fat also helps by slowing gastric emptying and supporting insulin clearance, improving pancreatic beta cell function over time. So avoid eating starches or processed carbs alone, what some nutritionists call naked carbs. That's why rice and beans work better together than rice alone, and why potatoes with butter or olive oil create a more stable blood sugar response than plain potatoes. Another helpful tip: add acidic foods. Include vinegar, lemon, or lime juice in your meals. Fermented foods also help. Acidity slows down starch breakdown and digestion. Vinegar, in particular, enhances insulin sensitivity and helps suppress glucose spikes by reducing glucose production in the liver. A splash of vinegar or lemon can make your meal not only tastier, but metabolically smarter. Beyond what you eat, when you eat matters too. Multiple studies show that eating later in the day leads to worse blood sugar responses. This is because insulin sensitivity and pancreatic insulin secretion follow the body's circadian rhythm. Both decline at night. When melatonin levels rise in the evening, insulin production decreases and glucose control becomes harder. The simplest and most effective advice: eat dinner earlier and stop eating at least 3 hours before bedtime. This supports both blood sugar stability and better sleep. Avoid late-night snacking. Even small meals close to bedtime can impair glucose tolerance, regardless of their carbohydrate content. Timing also matters within a meal. Eat carbs last. If you start your meal with bread or juice, you'll trigger a sharp glucose spike. But if you begin with protein and vegetables and save carbs for last, your stomach releases glucose much more slowly into the intestines. The result? A dramatically smoother glucose curve from the same foods, just eaten in a different order. This matters especially at restaurants, where bread or chips often arrive before the main course. Try starting with salad or protein before touching the bread basket. It's a small behavioral change with big metabolic rewards. One study using continuous glucose monitoring, CGM, found that when participants ate non-rice dishes before rice in a traditional Japanese meal, their post-meal glucose fluctuations dropped significantly. And finally, a simple habit that can make a big difference: walk after meals. Research shows that even a 10-minute walk right after eating can reduce post-meal glucose levels. This doesn't have to be formal exercise. Light activities like cleaning the kitchen or climbing stairs work too. But walking is the most studied and most accessible option for most people. The key is timing. Move as soon as possible after eating. Why does it work? Walking activates the soleus muscle, a deep muscle that runs from below your knee to your heel. It's a metabolic powerhouse, rapidly absorbing glucose from the bloodstream. Because it's made mostly of slow-twitch fibers, it can work continuously without fatigue, burning glucose for a long time and helping your blood sugar return to normal faster. In the end, it's not about avoiding carbs, it's about eating them wisely. Carbohydrates are not your enemy. With the right strategies, they can still be part of a balanced, healthy lifestyle. Listen to your body, understand your food, and keep your blood sugar steady, one meal at a time. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more health insights.
See you next time.